Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mystics Outlook. Joined by Raymond Lyons. We got Cardo Dudley Jr., Wilson Tarpe Jr. And look, man, we knew heading into this game it was a must-win game for the Washington Mystics. They went up to New York, and the Liberty gave their fans something to cheer about on Fan Appreciation Night, getting off to a really great start. Washington was outstanding in the third quarter, led by Ariel Atkins, who went on a crazy run. But New York responded and did enough to hold Washington off 91-80 to keep their playoff hopes alive. We'll get down into how everything will play off like tiebreaker wise before we end this. But Ray, we'll start with you. Just your initial thoughts on this game, then we'll get to Cardell.
Um, I mean, thank God for the third quarter to at least make it respectable. But the Liberty they just dominated the game for the most part. They came out, they just looked like they wanted it more. They started faster. They were looked like they had more pep in their step from the get go. Natasha Howard, she started off quick. Looked like she was just ready to get this thing over with in a hurry. I mean that's having a player like that can just go toe to toe with Tina, and she got the best of her tonight. That's a luxury that a lot of teams don't have. She was able to get the best of her on both ends. And then Cardell was talking about it earlier before we got online. When the Mystics having to dig down and help Tina on defense, they're kicking it out, and the Liberty they just were not missing from three. And I mean it's just demoralizing, when you got that choice to make every possession where 9 times out of 10 is ending up in the basket. Either Natasha Howard was scoring or they're kicking it out and they're bombing away from outside. And then defensively, the Liberty, they were bothersome. They had active hands, they were rebounding, and the Mystics just couldn't get anything going. We saw in the third quarter they were able to able to kind of get themselves back in the game. Ariel, she just went on the tear. And like you said, Wilson, the Liberty they took the punch and then they came right back and was able to close it out. That 3-point shooting, man, they ended up shooting 45% for the game, but at halftime they were shooting 63% from three, 53% from the field. I mean, that's just execution, and that's why the score looked the way it did. It's a little disappointing to see this type of performance with a game of this magnitude from the Mystics, but kudos to New York, man. They did what they had to do. They came out and they played with intensity. They played with a sense of urgency. And it was a big game for them as well. So yeah, man, they stepped up. They stepped up to the challenge and and met it head on. And again, the Mystics they kind of got as close to whole as they can be at this point. But it's Maisha's first game back in a few. Ariel, this is her first game back after a couple games. So again, it's just kind of the lack of continuity with the team. That's just been the story of the season. And we're literally at the end now. So it just is what it is. That's just something they've had to deal with. And and through it all, they still have a chance to to find their way in the postseason. They would have made their lives much easier if they got it done tonight, but New York had other plans. But Najalani, she started off slow scoring wise, but she was still able to contribute on the defensive end. So they just played a complete game as a team, and it was too much for the Mystics to overcome.
Cardell.
Yeah, the same. Natasha Howard set the tone from jump, so with her dominant performance in the first quarter, 11 points, 2 rebounds on 5 of 5 shooting. She went at Tina. She went at Tina hard in ISO situations, and then their guards made Tina work in pick and roll sets where, she had to hedge out. She had to make some tough decisions. And once Natasha was rolling, pretty much Tina was in no man's land. And then the times where the Mystics started adjusting, trying to dig down, like Raymond said, they slide over to help about pick and roll situations, they were just bombing them. And the thing about the Liberty, the thing that keeps them in a lot of games, even though Natasha's been out and they haven't had an inside presence with her out, is their 3-point shooting. They're up there in the league. They're at the top of the league and shooting 35% throughout the season. And I know against the Mystics, every game they played 3 games, and now that the Mystics 1-2 against them this season, each game the Liberty has shot no less than 40% from 3. So they're confident. They know they can get shots off against the Mystics from deep because the Mystics aren't the most athletic team on the wings. Cloud, once you get past Cloud and Ariel, it's a free for all, no disrespect. Shatori just got here for the most part, you know what I'm saying? So you can't really put that on her. She for the first half of the season, she wasn't really in the mix, you know what I mean? So, and then even up front, Maisha is undersized, even though she's athletic, but she's undersized. And Tina, she's 6'4", she's limited with her, mobility, and that's why teams attack her. And it's hard for them to recover the contest and run those guys, run those ladies off the 3-point line. You know what I mean? So that's their bread and butter. And if you got Natasha doing what she's doing inside, Natasha Howard, man, it's just it's the reason why she's an all WNBA. It's the reason why she's a multi-time champion. You know what I mean? She is shown why they signed her. She was such a big addition to the Liberty in the offseason, man. All the top teams, if she'd have been in throughout the season for people watching, if she'd have been in throughout the season, the Liberty wouldn't even be in this position. They would be in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, all the top teams had one of those athletic, highly skilled, with great size, what you want to call Freaks of Nation unicorns. All the top teams got one. And that's why, she was such a big addition. That's why Seattle won it in 2018, because they got 2 of them. They had 2 of them, her and Stewie. You know what I mean? So that's the addition. That's the separation right there. Obviously, the Liberty, they bombed them. Like Ray touched on, 50% shooting from 3 in the first quarter. And then at the half, they increased it to 63%, man. Then, obviously, the Mystics going to show heart. It's a lot of it's still pieces from the championship run on that team, and that was led by Ariel. You know what I mean? She had 17 points in the third quarter. She just bombed away, and I can't leave Shatori out. Shatori hit some big shots and some tough shots as well. She was balling. They show heart. You know what I mean? But you're gonna come back down to earth eventually when you got to make that type of push just to make it a game, man. That's why the first half was so devastating because, they and it started in the first quarter, 26-15. The next thing you know, 21-14, man. Like, if it would have been a lot closer, that third quarter run could have changed things, man. Also, the free throws, misses with 14-18. I know the Liberty were 15-18, but for the most part in the first half, the Mystics didn't shoot 8 free throws, and the Liberty, I think, were 9 for 9. So the fouls were piling up. Also, with that type of cushion from the free throw line, they won't admit it, but it's just human nature. You adjust your game, it start bothering you because you feel like you're frustrated. You're not gonna get any calls on defense. You're scared to really get into people like you would like to because you think they're just gonna call anything. It's tough, but that's part of playing on the road, and that's why with the mistakes, the turnovers. Cloud had 4 today. She's only averaging 2 a game on the season. That's uncharacteristic for her. They had 5 in the first quarter, 3 from Cloud. 3 of her 4 turnovers came in the first quarter, and obviously that's when New York blessed them. You just kept giving them. They were hot. You kept giving them extra possessions to bomb you, and then that opened the floodgates, man. So, it's tough. I expected Maisha to be rusty. You can't miss that much time and just come in this type of game. This is a playoff type game, and just kill and all that. So I expected her to be rusty, not have her timing right, and she did. And because if she'd have been regular Maisha, maybe it would have been a different game. But she wasn't. Obviously, the I hate to keep saying it, the bench play outside Shatori was non-existent. You know what I mean? You only had 4 points if you take Shatori out the equation. I know the Liberty didn't play much better overall, but at least they got in double digits. They thoroughly outplayed the Mystics bench, and then the starters, like you said, the Liberty, they had 4 players in double figures. The Mystics only had 2, and that's Tina, and Tina was getting doubled and triple all game to make sure she didn't really go off, man. So, I mean, look, Liberty had a great game plan. They executed, and they deserve to win.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you guys said, yeah, great game plan, extremely well executed. And one of the things, like you said, Cardell, that the teams that separate themselves in the league, when you have one of those unicorns, and the one that the Liberty have, they so happen to win a defensive player of the year already. So even they were switching, she's on a perimeter. You could get away with 7 bodies because when you kick it out, Tasha Howard is able to get between 2 shooters and at least make you think twice before you put that shot up because of her length. It just bothers things. And the other thing is, if she's the one digging down, you're gonna be able to get that pass back over the top of her. Like they were able to do so many things, and I give them credit for the way their roster's constructed a little bit. I know they're still not where they need to be at, but they're more athletic than Washington. Just period. They're more athletic, and you saw where it pays off when you're able to send 2-3 bodies at Tina and get back out to the shooters. They had no issues digging down and getting back. Washington at this point, and this is when we talk about 2018, 2019, the transformation, and now, and this is why we've said this several times, and I think I can speak for all of us. We will not be shocked if when we get to going into next season, that this roster looks a little bit different from from an athletic profile. They're missing people that were able to cover ground. Some of the people that they lost. No, people don't, people only excited about offense or whatever, but one of the reasons they were a very good defensive team, people can guard multiple positions. People are able to move around on the floor and do different things. And as you guys both mentioned, as they're currently constructed, with depth being an issue, they can ill afford to get out to these type of starts. They're not equipped to really dig themselves out of it. Cardell, like you mentioned, Ariel Atkins went nuts in the third. But New York had the luxury, putting your starters back in. Washington starters were in during that run. We talked about this several times this year, but at the end of the day, they got opportunity on Sunday. It would have been better if you took care of business tonight. But as Ray said, credit to New York. So just want to talk about these playoff scenarios. Cardell, you can go ahead and just lay those out for people. I know we talked about them before we started.
It's just simple. Right now, with this loss, the Liberty and the LA Sparks, who the Mystics are competing with for the final playoffs, they have the tiebreaker. So, obviously, if the Mystics win, they're in. If they lose and the Sparks lose, then the Liberty are in. If the Mystics lose and the Sparks win, they're in. So, that's just what it comes down to, man. So, it will be very tough for the Mystics to lose on their home court. You know what I'm saying? Because think about it, they end their season this way on their home court. I don't care who they playing, because the last time a season was ended on this home court was a championship being celebrated. You know what I'm saying? Because last year they were in the bubble. Mm-hmm. So, DC gotta come out and support, man. You know what I mean? Because it's tough, and they got a tough opponent who's in the playoffs, man. You know what I mean? So, it's gonna be a tough one, man. You know what I mean? This was the game, but at the end of the day, with Natasha Howard back, man, they just boosted with the Liberty. Ain't the Liberty they've been playing throughout the season. So it changed a lot. You know what I mean? So thing is, get some rest and come out. And the message is what Atkins did. The rest of the team need to follow her lead and have that type of just effort. And I'm leaving it all out here type game, man. And they need to get in the lab and just stay in that zone, because if not, Cancun or for them, getting ready for overseas for most of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the reality.
Yep. Ray, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nah, man. Just it's always important to take care of business. Making things harder than they need to be.
Like you guys said, it's Washington sports in a nutshell. Can't ask for anything less. Before we get out of here, quick word from our folks over at Oohs and Ahs. Visit Oohs and Ahs for happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m. daily at the Georgia Avenue location. Happy hour foods prices start at $6.95. For your night owls, there's buy one, get one late night cocktails from 10 p.m. to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays at Georgia Avenue. As a reminder, get over to oozandahs.com to see the menu, hours, and more. And we will see you guys very, very soon. Don't forget to get over to the Focus TV. That's www.thefocustv.com.